My goodness me, look at the asters. Absolutely incredible. I want to grow all the colours all the time. So what I've decided to do is create a blend for you. A jolly mixture of absolutely everything. So today we're going to start our China Aster, and if you look over my shoulder you will see the bed in the paddock with the anemones and ranunculus blooming in it now is the very same bed that we grew the China Asters in last year towards the end of the season. So they're a very good one. If you've got anemones and ranunculus or anything that's flowering really early, they're a very good one to bed flip with later because they're going to take a while. We probably won't be planting them out until June. So you've got plenty of time for those flowers to bloom and have their moment in the sun before you're ready for something fresh, and that can be your asters. This is the Aster trial patch, and I think it is a resounding success. I'm absolutely thrilled to bits. Let me remind you, it is almost September and these flowers are as fresh as spring. And the other thing is, this bed held the ranunculus. Now, no, I'm not supposed to be talking about ranunculus yet, Neil says. However, I think I can get away with it if I show you this exact bed just a few months ago, this spring. And then you can see what you can do with one piece of space. Now, China Asters, or Callistephus chinensis, you'll probably guess, are from northern China. And they're very unusual in the fact that they need the really long days to produce good vegetative growth. Quite often, the really long days, or the short nights, which is really the truth, promotes bud formation. But in Callistephus chinensis, it's the opposite. Bud formation is triggered when the days start getting shorter. I know we don't want to talk about that at the moment, but the good news is they are perfect to sow in the summer. Don't sow them too late because they do need a good long period to grow into strong plants. So if you're thinking, oh, I might sow them in June or July, they won't have long enough because our summers get cut short by the frosts. They won't have long enough to turn into mature plants. So about now is perfect. I sowed them last year in the first week in May. So this is the ideal time if you want to grow along with me. So I've got my seeds, here they are, and I'm just going to start out by sowing one seed per cell onto the surface of the compost. So I've watered the seed tray, being careful not to dislodge the seeds. You can always water them ahead of sowing. Then I'm going to add a propagator lid to increase the humidity. Here's one I did earlier, and you can see how the humid environment has already built up inside the dome. Now, China Asters like a warm germination period of about 20 to 22 degrees. So a warm windowsill in the house if you don't have a heat mat, and then just keep an eye on them. They'll take about a week to germinate, and then bring them out into the greenhouse so they get as much light as possible. We're not quite out of the woods yet, so keep an eye on the temperatures. If we get any cold snaps, then they might have to have the odd overnight stay in the kitchen. And in true Blue Peter style, here is one I prepared earlier. So the zinnias are very fast. These were sown on Thursday. You can see we've nearly got 100% germination already. The asters are slower. They take longer. They're only just starting to germinate now. I'm just making the most of every minute today. And I just want to show you, these are the zinnias and these are the China Asters. They are so happy in the warm, underneath the frost cloth to give them shade. Look at those. Just saves them getting scorchio. Now you need to be careful that you don't overwater your China Asters, but they also don't like drying out. So we're a bit later in the season. On occasion, the greenhouse will get very hot. On those days, I tend to either push the trays out of the direct sunshine, under the shade of the staging, not into the shade, but just out of the sunshine. But what is a lot easier is to use some horticultural fleece as a shade cloth. You can drape that over the plants. It's nice and light. That will give them some respite from the full belting sunshine, but it will still provide them with plenty of daylight. It will help slow the transpiration down and evaporation, so the soil won't dry out quite as quickly and you won't have to water them as often. Now these are looking very good. Now these are the Asters and the Zinnias, and they don't like a soggy bottom, so make sure that you don't water them as much as everything else, because they will rot off. Basil's the same. It will rot off if they are left to be too wet. There we are, happy as Larry, and you can see, if I stand back, we've got plenty of ventilation. You can see the fleece moving in the air, so that's key. And then this will just help with the evaporation, to keep the evaporation down so you haven't got to water quite as often. Lovely. Now China Asters produce beautiful blooms atop tall, slender stems, so we will not be pinching them. Pinching them diverts the plant's energy from one stem into two or more stems, making the resulting stems more slender. That is not required for China Aster. While we're talking about pinching, I've got questions on the Asters and the Zinnias. Asters, you don't pinch those at all. They've got very, very slender stems. I'll run a video for you in a minute. So no pinching of your Asters. In the next couple of days, I'm going to come down here with my camera to get the pictures for the January seed shop. I know lots of you are growing these this year for the first time. I bet you're glad now, aren't you? And can you see what I mean about the stems? The flowers are absolute whoppers, but the plants are so tall and the stems are so slender, making them perfect for bouquets and arrangements. I'm just cutting some of my Aster stems, and I'm cutting right at the base of the stem there. Can you see my secateurs? Now, some plants can be sensitive to certain diseases, especially when they're not native to the UK. They don't get a chance to build up a resistance. With Asters, it's fungal diseases. So the most sensible precaution is to make sure that you don't plant them in the same space next year. So I'm going to move my Asters around the garden. So if there is a risk of any fungal spores being dropped last year, ready to reinfect my plants this year, they won't be able to. They won't stand a chance of passing that disease on. These are my Asters, look at those roots, and I'm planting them the usual 22 centimetres apart. It's such a nice evening, isn't it? So the Asters are all settled in. I just need to give them a quick water. They've been waiting for the sun to go down, and then protect them from the slugs, and then leave them to get on with it. Well, what a year to grow Asters, and I know loads of you, because you bought my seeds clearly, are growing them for the first time ever, and they love this weather. Look, there's no lids, they're out in the belting sunshine, not batting an eye. No matter how hot it gets, they don't wilt. They're just incredible. We've got a bit of a trial going on, so I can't wait to show you the results, and I can see it's not going to be long. Got the first flower spikes. They won't flower until August. Bit of trivia for you. They need the days, I'm so sorry to say this, they need the days to start drawing in, and that triggers flower formation. The Asters are nearly here. Come on, Asters. You know you want to. So it's the very end of August. This is August bank holiday weekend, and I'm showing you my Aster trial. They just get into their stride at this time of the year. They need the dipping light levels to trigger flower formation. And my goodness me, are they being triggered? What an incredible sight. I'm just picking myself a gorgeous handful of these amazing lavender grey asters. They're just incredible. And I have a feeling that they are gonna look knockout with the eucalyptus. I've just been distracted actually by the panic and frosted explosion. That looks really, really good. Now, if you'd like to have a recap, all the things that we've been discussing about the China asters are also written down for you in your Spring Grow Along handbook.